Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm back today with a story time video, and I know it's been so long since my last one. It's actually been around 9 months. I could have had a baby in the time between the last one and this one. That is insanity. This is also a collaboration video with a fellow YouTuber and fellow IPSOS member. Her name is Alexis. Sylvans, I'm sorry if I'm saying your last name wrong. I give you full permission to read my ass in the comment section if I am. She was the one who came up with this idea, and honestly, it was a great idea because, like I said, I haven't done one in a long time, and you guys seem to like my storytime videos. So yeah, thank Alexis for this video. I will be leaving all of Alexis's social media information down below in the description box for you guys. If you want to check her out, please do. And so yeah, without further ado, let's just get started. So the theme of today's story time is about the time that I was a very unsuccessful catfish. So we are going to go all the way back to 2011 because that was the year this whole thing happened, and it was also the year I met my husband on the same exact website that I was catfishing people on. Before I get into the story, I want to first just say, if you're somebody who is currently catfishing somebody, or if you're someone who is thinking about catfishing somebody, just take my advice, learn from my mistake that I'm going to talk about in this video, and just don't do it because it really isn't worth your time or that person's time. Because in the time you're spending creating all these fake profiles to go along with that one profile and all these lies, you could be spending your time finding and talking to somebody who genuinely likes you for who you are. You could be building a possible relationship with the person who you're supposed to be with, but you're not. You're spending your time making fake profiles and all these lies to cover up more lies and more lies on top of those lies. It just isn't worth it. So if you could take any advice away from this, just be yourself and just have fun dating. Dating should be about putting on this facade to attract people who you like, who might not like you back. Find somebody who likes you for who you are entirely. Appearances, flaws, personality, and all. So in 2011, I had officially made New York my home state for the time being. I moved from Florida up to New York because my dad and I weren't getting along, getting into fights all the time, and quite frankly, I really wasn't doing well for myself down in Florida because I was pretty much keeping myself in a position in life to where I really wasn't making any progress. I was just doing the same shit every single day and smoking shit tons of marijuana. Back then, I was smoking a shit ton of pot because I was trying to alleviate the stress that I was under, because at that point in my life, I was so lost and so unsure about what I wanted to do. I thank God that I finally have realized what I'm meant to be doing on this earth not too long after, but it was a very shitty time in my life at that point, and because of my reluctance to go to college, to do pretty much anything besides smoke pot, my dad and I didn't see eye to eye at all, got into a huge fight, and because of that fight, I decided to pack my shit and get myself out of Florida as fast as possible. So about 2 weeks after I had finally just gotten acclimated to my new environment, I decided that I really wanted to try dipping my toes into the dating pool. Now, I will tell you right now, the dating pool in Schroon Lake was a shit show. A lot of the guys who I'd gone on dates with were pretty disgusting personality-wise. All they wanted from me, and I made it very, very clear after we were on the date, that they were only interested in pretty much having sex on the first night, and that was not how I was. I was actually a virgin until I met my husband. Little quick fact about me. And it wasn't because of like a religious thing. I just didn't find anybody who was worth that to me. So yeah. After a few weeks of dating in real life, I decided that it wasn't working because, like I said, the guys really weren't that good in that town. So my best girlfriend, Sam, was actually online one day at my house, I'm pretty sure, or we were at work or something. And she was telling me about this website called My Yearbook. Back then it was called My Yearbook. Now it's called Meet Me. And she was saying that she was meeting a bunch of guys on there, like just talking to them. They actually seemed pretty chill, very laid back, not too pushy. So I was like, you know what? Let's make a profile for myself and we'll see what happens and give it a shot. After a few days of getting messages that were just guys asking me for boob pics or ass pics or like sexy pictures, I was so tired of it because I was like, boy, bye. I don't have time for this shit. Like, this is not what I'm here for. And quite frankly, I will say online dating on those kind of websites, you're only asking for that kind of trouble because it really isn't a dating site. It was pretty much a hookup site, which I didn't realize until after the fact. And clearly, Sam was telling me that she was meeting nice guys on there, but we were clearly meeting two different sets of guys on this website. One night I was getting really bored and decided to go on to the other sections of the website. They had like little game sections where you could play like little free games on there, and they also had this section called Hot or Not. And on this section, what you did was essentially what you do on Tinder. You swipe left or right whether you like the person or not. And that was what I was doing for a good like 20 minutes until I came across the picture of this kid named Brian. Brian was perfection. He was wearing a band t-shirt that had a Day to Remember on it, which is my favorite band of life. If you know me at all, you know this. He was holding a guitar and was clearly on stage somewhere in his profile picture. So I was thinking, holy shit, not only does he like the same band that I like, he is a musician, which back then was a huge turn on for me. So I messaged Brian right away because I was not gonna let him slip away from me. He was the most perfect one on that website, at least until my husband showed up, but he was perfection to me when I saw him, so I did not want to let him go away. So I messaged him and told him that I thought he was really attractive, and I mentioned my love for the same band that he had in his t-shirt and tried to show off a little bit with some facts that he probably didn't know, but he probably did, because clearly he liked the band too. And I was kind of heartbroken when I didn't get a response back until a few days later, when he basically told me that he was not interested in me at all. After being rejected by him, I was really heartbroken because, like I said, he was the only guy on there that I was even close to being remotely interested in, and he just shattered my entire dreams of being with him. Because I'm a jealous bitch, I went onto his profile and checked out some of the girls who he was friends with, who he was talking to, and realized that there was a very big difference between me and the other girls. The girls he was talking to were like of the emo persuasion, but they weren't really emo. They were like glam emo, gleamo. They were fucking gorgeous. They're beautiful girls. So I was like, you know what? I am going to see if he reacts to a different profile differently if it's not me. And that's where the whole catfish thing started. I spent 20 minutes on Google searching for the perfect picture of the perfect girl that I knew he would respond to very quickly. Found a perfect picture, made a profile for her and named her Rebecca, and made Rebecca 2 corresponding emails, and didn't message Brian right away because at that point on my yearbook, they had a thing that told you when they had joined my yearbook, so I wanted to make sure I at least had some friends and some activity on my profile and some more pictures before I messaged him so he would assume and think that it was a real profile and actually talk to me. About maybe a week and a half, almost 2 weeks later after making the initial profile for Rebecca, I had already started getting some really positive feedback on my profile and getting a lot of messages from guys who looked like him or at least dressed like Brian, but they weren't Brian. So at this point I was like, you know what? I think it's time. I'm getting good feedback. People are talking to me. It looks legit. Let's go ahead and message Brian again now with Rebecca's profile. Almost immediately, I get a message back from Brian and I am elated because clearly I'm a fucking genius. Almost immediately, Brian and Rebecca hit it off so incredibly well, and it gets to the point after a few weeks of talking to where we're on the phone for hours and hours and hours and texting every single day, multiple times a day. We get so incredibly close, and I get to the point where I actually feel like I'm dating Brian. I mean, I'm literally so consumed and so into this relationship that I forget that he's not actually with me. He's actually with Rebecca, who is not even a real person. After a few months of constantly talking to this guy and falling even more and more and more in love with him and the idea of being with him, I knew I had to cut it off because I was getting so consumed with the relationship and so into it. Even though he wasn't in a relationship with me, he was with Rebecca, not me. I was just acting like Rebecca to get attention from him, and I knew what I was doing was shitty, and I felt so incredibly bad. So at that point, I knew before things got any more serious, I had to tell him the truth. Because I was so in love with him, or so I thought I was so terrified of telling him the truth because I did not want to lose him as a friend at all. However, because of how shitty of a person I had been for the past few months and making him believe he was talking to somebody he was actually interested in when he really wasn't, I knew that I deserved anything he would have said or done to me in retribution for what I did, because I did a really shitty thing. So I sat down and emailed him a very long apologetic email and just told him everything and pretty much sold myself out to him because I really did feel bad for what I was doing. I got no response from him right away up until a few days later when he messaged me on my yearbook under my profile after I told him it was actually me who messaged him, and he asked me to meet him in Lake George during the American weekend to hang out. And I was like, holy shit, like, what if this actually worked in my favor? I messaged him back pretty quickly and said that I would love to meet up with him in Lake George just so I could apologize to his face and just get things off my chest face to face rather than emailing him every single time to get things off my chest. So we both made plans to meet at one of the arcades in Lake George, and finally it comes time for the date day, and I am just so incredibly excited. So I get dressed very quickly, head my ass down to Lake George at record speeds, and get there pretty early, so it really wasn't a surprise that he wasn't there yet since he lived a little bit farther away than I did from Lake George. About 10 minutes after I had gotten there, I decided to text him and let him know I was there waiting for him, and he texted me back pretty quickly and let me know that he was actually getting gas and he'd meet me there within 10 minutes. 10 minutes goes by and there's still no sign of him, so I texted him again and asked him where he was, if he was stuck in traffic. He texted back and said, yeah, there's bad traffic up north of Lake George, I'll be there within 20 minutes. 20 minutes goes by and there's still no sign of him, and I texted him back and asked him where he was. This time, I got no response. I texted him about 10 minutes after that text message. No response. I texted him again about 45 minutes later because I had met up with some friends there who I didn't know were going to be there, so I hung out with them instead for a couple minutes while I was waiting for him, and got no response. After about 2 hours of hanging out with my friends who I just caught up with when I was there, I decided just to go home. As I was pulling into Scroon Lake, which is the town I was living in at that point, I finally get a phone call from this dude after hours of waiting for any kind of response from him to tell me where he was or if he wasn't going to show up. So I ignore his phone calls because I am not in the mood to talk to him, and I notice I get a voicemail. So as soon as I get home, I check my voicemail in my car, and the voicemail says, "I shit you not. Now you know how it feels to be lied to and led on." Click. Totally burned my ass. And I couldn't be mad at him at that point because I knew I deserved every second of what he said, and I deserved what he did to me because that's essentially what I did to him. But I was worse because instead of wasting just a whole day of my time, I wasted months of his time making him believe that he was talking to somebody he was actually interested in when it wasn't that case. So I learned my lesson and deleted that fake profile, deleted all the emails. I was so mad at myself for doing what I did, and I tried to apologize to him again, but he didn't message me back. I don't blame him. I would have done the same exact fucking thing. A few months later, in August of 2011, I met my husband for the first time on that same website, and the rest is history. So yeah, that was my I Was a Catfish story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any stories like this one, or if you were a catfish, leave your stories down below. Let's have like a little talk or forum if you want down below in the comments. Please don't forget to check out Alexis's profiles. I will have it in the description box for you guys to check out. I thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.